This is the Vic Feazell Show podcast, hosted by Vic Feazell and Jonathan Zimick, sponsored by Moroso Wood-Fired Pizzeria and Pinewood Coffee Roasters.
Well, Vic, we got some cool articles. I'm sitting in front of a guapo of paper.
We do. There's been a lot of news that we can talk about. We're going to eventually have to get back to our storyline.
Oh, let's get back to the story.
Yeah, the Deep State versus Vic Feazell. We've kind of paused that to get into some of these new news articles that are coming out. Things that just make me sad, Jonathan.
Things that are just insane.
Insane. The world seems to be upside down. We all need to just do a reset. We'll stop, take a breath, look around, see what's going on, make a change. We got to.
I feel like there's some Buffalo Springfield lyrics that should come in about now.
You better stop, look where you are, take a look around. It's not too late to start again.
And that's Buffalo Springfield?
No, that was me. I wrote that back when I used to sit around on Saturday afternoons and write songs with my guitar instead of thinking about this podcast or reading depositions.
Man, podcast was, there wasn't even a thought yet.
Oh, gosh, no.
Well, actually, there was just radio shows, which is pretty much just a podcast.
Well, except you had to sit there and listen to it, and if you got up and went to the bathroom, you missed some of it. You know, the podcast is great. You can listen to it whenever you want.
Pause it, rewind it.
Rewind it, yeah. Hey, it's been a week since we did our podcast on who killed Lily Heffley.
Yes.
40 years later, questions still haunt the family. They haunt her friends. And those questions should be haunting our police and our sheriff's office.
Should be.
It's been a week. All right, where's that cigar? A cigar was put out on her dead body. Right. And Fort Worth police says they have the cigar. It's at the lab.
So they did confirm it.
Well, that's what the sheriff's office here says.
Cool.
You know, so I hope so. But where are the results? It doesn't take that long. Where are the results? Let's get it. Get it done. Stick it into CODIS. That's the DNA data bank.
Right.
And see what comes up. Plus, there's some known suspects on this case.
Yeah, really, just compare it to them.
That's
low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I know. And one of the suspects actually smoked that cigar, that brand of cigar, back 40 years ago, and he still smokes it today.
Ooh.
The other suspect has hightailed it to Germany and is living in Germany now.
Whoa.
So, and there may be other suspects, but those are the two I know about.
Crazy.
And I believe our sheriff's office and our police department know about these suspects. The family knows about these suspects. There was a $350,000 life insurance, and that was a lot of money for a young lady to have in life insurance who operated, 40 years ago. Yeah, $350,000, and she hadn't had it that long. Man. Whoa. If I had been the life insurance company investigator, I'd have been looking off into this. Now, they didn't have DNA back then, but we have it now. Let's use it. It's been a week. Every week or so, Jonathan, let's bring this up and say, what's happening?
Sure.
What's happening?
You and I should do the 23andMe DNA and see if ours comes back faster than this lab gets it done.
I bet it would. You can do it. I'm not going to give
I don't want to be in the database after these articles.
I'm not going to do that.
You were not doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe let someone in the office do it.
Yeah, let somebody in the office do it. I'm not going to do it. But that's a case that needs to be solved, and let's keep putting it out there. And folks, if you're concerned about it, pick up the phone and call the sheriff. Pick up the phone and call the police and say, what's happening on this case? When can we expect something from the DNA? Now, Paul Gately did a great TV show, a news story on it.
Which featured you, by the way.
It did. And he's written letters to the Fort Worth police. He's written letters to some of the other law enforcement, and they won't answer him. They kick it to the AG and say, Mr. AG, Mr. Attorney General, we don't really have to answer this, do we?
Do we?
Well, yeah, you do. Come on. Now, because it's not a closed case, it's a cold case, they claim they're still working on it. Legally, they don't have to do it. They don't. They don't have to give the information to Paul. But at least give some kind of update to the family and to the police down here. Yeah. What is going on with this case? Let's get this murder solved. I'm all for getting murderers off the street.
Yeah.
You know?
It'd be a wise decision.
That's why I don't understand why up in New York, NYPD says it's going to remove some non-convicts from its local DNA database.
Right.
Why?
Well, so from what I understood in this article, Vic, the DNA belongs to people who were potential witnesses. They were potential, persons of interest in cases that never fleshed out to be where these people had any guilt whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So New York is under pressure by some individual law firms up there saying, if you don't need this stuff, you guys need to toss it, get it out of your database, expunge it.
And it says here they're going to do it. I'd be fighting that because in my opinion, DNA is like a fingerprint. Are they going to go and purge the fingerprint database of everybody who's never been convicted of a crime? My fingerprints are on file with the FBI.
Right.
I've never been convicted of a crime. My ex-wife's fingerprints are on file with the FBI. She's never been convicted. All kinds of people. Anytime you do anything, even if you go after a professional license, you go to take the bar exam.
Yep.
You have to give them your fingerprints.
That's right. Real estate agents.
Uh-huh. So what's the difference between the fingerprints and DNA, which can actually tell whether somebody committed a murder or not? I mean, just because you've never been convicted before, so what? You know, and we got NYPD saying they're going to remove a lot of this DNA. Yet at the same time, you got other law enforcement agencies trying to subpoena DNA from these DNA banks, 23andMe and what was that other one? Ancestry.com.
Yeah, Ancestry.com.
Yeah. And they're dropping subpoenas on them.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. So
it's an interesting thing, and that's great that you brought that up because it's almost like DNA is your modern day fingerprint. Mm-hmm. It's a better fingerprint. Mm-hmm. Is really the best way to put it. I don't know if people are fearing somehow they're gonna take your DNA and shove it on a crime scene somewhere and convict you of something you didn't do. I don't understand it.
They can do that with fingerprints.
Right.
They can. They really, really, really can. So that's just why we all have to be diligent and be honest and just do what's right.
Yeah, if you got nothing to hide.
Don't go committing any murders,
Don't dump them on 35.
Don't do that stuff. Exactly. So anyway, poor old Lily Heffley. Send us an email or send us a form through our website, vicfeazell.com. And while you're there, look at our coffee and our T-shirts and our posters and
buy something.
All the stuff that helps keep this valuable ministry on the air.
That's right. And every bag of coffee, $1 goes to a nonprofit. Right now we're backing Proclaim Justice,
Proclaim Justice.
Jason Baldwin's.
Jason Baldwin. What a guy.
Cool dude.
Crazy about him. He's a hero in my opinion. And I got a message from Laura Nyrider the other day.
You did?
About Jason Baldwin. And she was talking about what a hero that he is to her as well. I really want her on the show. She said she was going to check out our podcast and maybe come on the show. We could do it by phone, Laura. Yeah. I mean, I respect you a lot. I respect your organization a lot. You have done a lot of good things. So come on and talk about it.
And for our listeners, she is the appeal lawyer who handled Brandon Dassey's appeal in Making a Murderer. And then she also worked on the West Memphis 3 case. And they have a podcast of their own now.
Yes, they do.
Which is new and trending.
New and trending. I've listened to it, and I like it.
And it's all about false confessions?
False confessions, false convictions.
Gotcha.
Yes, yeah. Wrongful convictions. Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
what is troubling us today, Vic?
It just makes me sad when I see power being abused.
Oh.
And power is just being abused all the time. We wonder why one little spark can set off a riot.
Yeah.
And it's because things have become so polarized between law enforcement and citizens.
Yes.
And a lot of times you think about black people, minorities, when we go in that direction talking, but it's gone further than that now. Mm-hmm. They cut their teeth on the minorities, but now they're coming after everybody.
Correct.
America has waged a war on poor people forever since we started, and now America is beginning to wage a war on the middle class, and it doesn't matter what color you are. Wait until you see what's going to happen with your taxes this year. Look at everything that's going on in the news. It's frightening. It's enough to make me want to stay home.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was reading this article about this guy named Gerald Edwards.
Yes.
I think that's the way you pronounce it, Jeriel, Edwards. This is a case about excessive force by police.
Right. We've personally, with the firm, we've handled a few of those over the years.
Yes, we have. And I take them on sometimes because I hate injustice.
Yep.
Jonathan, you helped me handle one a few years ago where, was it 4 or 5 Waco policemen tased
and killed
a veteran.
A veteran who was having a PTSD episode.
He was having a PTSD episode. He wasn't being violent. It was all on video. We subpoenaed the dash cam videos and got all of it on video. He was in his sister's yard.
Yeah.
He was just walking around. That's all he was doing. He didn't have a weapon. He wasn't confronting anyone. He just didn't understand what they were asking him to do.
Yeah.
And so one comes up, tells him to do something. He just kind of stands there and looks at him. And so he tases him.
Yeah.
Another comes up with his own taser and tases him. Before it's over, there are 4 tasers in this man.
Yeah.
And they tased him to death.
They did.
Right here in Jerusalem on the Brazos. Right here in Waco, Texas. And we lost that case.
We did.
We didn't lose it to a jury. We never got to a jury. We filed our lawsuit. The defense filed their summary judgment motion saying these policemen were totally within their right.
Yeah,
and also, Taser didn't do anything wrong.
Taser International, the manufacturer of the tasers.
We sued them too, saying you should have had better training. You should teach them. You don't put 4 tasers in somebody. It's probably going to fry them.
Well, you know what's funny is when we got a bunch of discovery from them, on one CD they sent was a video of them tasing like livestock. And they tased this huge bull with the same taser that they use on people, right? And it just froze the bull, and the bull just tipped over, man. And when you watch that and you realize they put 4 of those into that guy, I mean, there's no way he could have survived.
I know. And we stood up there. I stood up there and argued before the Court of Appeals. And a few months later, the Court of Appeals hands down their opinion, says, no, you don't have a lawsuit here. Everybody go home.
It's crazy. I remember that case so well.
A veteran, a man who fought for this country, a man who joined the armed forces and helped defend this country, to be tased to death in his sister's yard just because he did not comprehend what they were saying.
Right.
Our police need better mental health training, and we need policemen with better mental health.
Yeah, and they need training with those tasers.
Well, they need training on how to de-escalate rather than escalate.
Yeah.
They get so impatient. Their voice gets loud. They put somebody on the defensive. And if you do anything, you crack a smile, you frown, you pull away, you do anything, you just may end up dead.
Yeah.
And it's scary. It's scary. And I'm afraid of this tinderbox, because it is a tinderbox and it's not going to take much to set it off. Right. We all need to take a breath. The police. Calm down. The citizens, our government. And let's use some common sense. Let's do the right thing.
Hey.
And I got to tell you, I rewatched that movie again this weekend.
Do the right thing?
Yeah, nobody in that movie did the right thing. They didn't. I was kind of disappointed. I mean, for Spike Lee, and that being his first movie, it's a 30-year-old movie. It was good. But at the same time, I was looking for a message.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of message right at the end with a quote from Martin Luther King and another one from Malcolm X. Mm-hmm. But everybody in it was a movie about a peaceful community where people got along. And just the little rubs here and there that led to a riot.
Yeah.
And Spike Lee was in it. He was an actor. He wrote it. He directed it. He did everything. And he wrote himself this part. And if I were going to write myself a part, I'd write myself a part where I was at least, somebody that you could like, somebody that was doing the right thing, instead of somebody that helped precipitate the riot and helped destroy a man who had been good to him.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when people get so frustrated. And when the frustration boils and boils and boils, it's going to blow the top of the pot off.
Pow.
And that's what I hope we can avoid. Anyway, back to Jarrell Edwards. Jarrell Edwards. He was sitting in his car in the parking lot of a Muskogee Wendy's. And we know he wasn't smoking dope because we don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee. Remember that? Merle Haggard. Oh, that's a Merle Haggard song. We don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee. We don't take no trips on LSD. We don't burn our draft cards down at the courthouse. Yeah, I forgot the rest. Something about doing it with sheep. I forget.
Oh, I hope not.
But anyway, this is in Muskogee in a Wendy's parking lot. And he was approached by a City of Muskogee police officer who ordered Edwards to put the car in park and to provide his identification.
Okay.
And body and dashboard camera video of the encounter shows the officer made the request, even though he already knew who Edwards was. Oh. He knew Edwards. Show me your ID. He was just trying to pick a problem here.
Right.
So then the officer ordered Edwards to get out of the vehicle and remove his hands from his pocket. Edwards complied.
All right.
He complied with all of the officer's orders. And at this time, a second police officer arrived on the scene. And as Edwards exited the vehicle, he was ordered to face the vehicle and place his hands behind his back. Well, Mr. Edwards continues to comply. And at this point, one of the officers, but he didn't comply fast enough to suit him.
Faster.
I mean, sometimes they just, it's a vindictive, evil game of Simon Says.
Right.
And at this point, they grabbed his right arm, and while another officer shoved him into the corner of the car door, followed by the officers aggressively grabbing Edwards' upper body and pushing his head into the corner of the car door as they attempted to place his hands behind his back. So they pushed his head into the corner of the car door.
That's just rude.
Yeah. I'd call that excessive force.
Yep.
One officer then told Edwards to get on the ground. But before he could do so, the officer slammed him to the pavement. And as the officers pushed Edwards' head and neck to the ground, they also placed a knee on his body and to pin him to the ground. So he's surrounded by people in blue, giving him orders and pushing him around, shoving his head, putting him on the ground, putting a knee in his back. And Edwards was repeatedly asking the officers, "Why are you abusing me? Why are you doing this to me?" Nobody answered. Instead, the first officer fired a taser at Edwards as he lay on the ground. A third officer arrived on the scene and made 2 striking motions at Edwards. And the impact of these motions, these strikes, can be heard on the body camera video.
Wow.
All right, you'd think that would be enough, right? Well, a fourth officer shows up at the scene. Don't these guys have anything better to do?
No, I just want to pick on Edwards.
I mean, we're having gridlock in Waco, Texas now. I mean, I never thought I'd see gridlock in Waco, Texas. Gridlock is so avoidable, people. Don't do that. Don't run those lights after they've turned red. And don't go into the intersection when it's yellow, when you know you're going to be stuck there.
Common sense.
When I went through training in Austin PD, we spent a lot of time learning how to direct traffic. You never see police directing traffic anymore. They may be sitting in their car with the flashers on, and hey, you guys in the street, you just figure it out for yourself. Come on, guys, get out there and direct traffic. We had to keep white gloves and a whistle in our cars.
And a whistle?
A whistle. A whistle. And we learned to use those gloves and those whistles to direct traffic.
Michael Jacksoning in the middle of the crosswalks.
You know,
moonwalking.
We had one guy, and this was before Michael Jackson, but we had one guy that really kind of did it like that. People would come just to watch him direct traffic.
Was he out there moonwalking?
Kinda, yeah. And up on an elevated platform that he'd stick out there in the middle of the intersection.
For real?
Yeah, right there at the frontage road of 8th Street and I-35. Yeah.
Whoa.
He would put it right there, man, and he was good.
That's awesome.
And I kind of enjoyed it. They let me direct traffic when the UT games were over. People leaving the stadium from UT games, and I was out there directing traffic. But there wasn't anybody directing traffic in Muskogee that night. They were all in the Wendy's parking lot beating the hell out of poor old Mr. Edwards. And as the four officers dragged Edwards to the ground, another joined the fray and held him down by digging his knee into his body. Edwards lost consciousness en route to the hospital, where he was admitted to the ICU. That means intensive care unit.
It does.
That means you're hurt pretty bad.
It does.
So then the Rutherford Institute takes his case and they file a lawsuit.
Yeah, why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they?
Excessive force.
Excessive force, and he's complying. And you would think that that'd be a pretty easy case to win.
Yeah, you would definitely think so.
You'd think so.
Especially if they have all the body cam of 4 to 5 officers. And
yeah,
like you said, there was no charges. There was nothing. It was get out. You didn't do it fast enough time to rough you up.
Yeah, just rough this guy up just because he wasn't moving fast enough for him. You know, take a breath, guys. Take a breath. So that happened in October of 2016. In January of 2020, an Oklahoma federal court refused to hold the police officers responsible for brutalizing an African-American man who, despite complying with police orders during an arrest, was subjected to excessive force and brutality. Did I read that right?
Oh, you did, and that is crazy.
Refused to hold police responsible. So it didn't even get to a jury.
Right.
The federal court refused to hold him responsible. In granting the police officer's motion to dismiss,
right,
this Fourth Amendment lawsuit filed by the attorneys for the Rutherford Institute on behalf of Gerald Edwards, the court ruled that Edwards' confusion and trouble understanding directions constituted resistance. What? What?
Yikes.
What?
Yikes.
I mean, they're yelling these orders at you, one after another. You get confused, and that equals resistance. Hey, this is wrong. This is wrong. I really hope that the Rutherford Institute appeals this.
Yeah, I'd say.
They're thinking about it. I really hope they appeal this. This cannot be the law of our land, that the police can pull you over and it's okay to use excessive force on you, even when you're complying with all of their orders.
Right.
Here's one of the attorneys for Mr. Edwards. He says, if you ask police what Americans should do to stay alive during encounters with law enforcement, they will tell you to comply, cooperate, obey, do not resist, don't argue, don't make threatening gestures or statements, avoid sudden movements, and if you have to, even submit to a search of your person to stay alive. You know, and I've been saying, you know, unless they have a warrant, all you got to do is tell them who you are, show them your driver's license, that kind of thing. You can say no to a search.
Right.
But man, you got to be careful because these guys are quick-tempered. Yeah. Too many of them are. And they will beat the hell out of you like they beat the hell out of Mr. Edwards.
Right. Well, and I think the best line of that paragraph, it comes when he says, the problem is what to do when compliance is not enough.
Exactly.
Ugh.
How can you maintain the illusion of freedom when daily Americans are being shot, stripped, searched, choked, beaten, and tasered by police for little more than daring to frown or smile or question or challenge an order, or sometimes just because you're there.
Right.
Just because you exist.
Right. It's not fair, Vic.
It's not fair.
It's just crazy.
It's
man.
not fair. And you'd think that somebody higher up in our government would want to do something about this.
Right. Instead, they signed off and said, no.
No.
You got the license to kill, baby.
Yep. You'd think maybe an attorney general of the United States would want to do something about this.
You would
Or a
think.
former attorney general, or maybe especially if their name is like William Barr. You've been hearing his name in the news lately. Well, there's news out now about William Barr's connection to the Ruby Ridge killing.
Oh.
We all know about Ruby Ridge, and Barr is out there. He's been defending the FBI snipers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Senate Judiciary hearings for Attorney General nominee William Barr, they focused heavily on Barr's views on Special Counsel Robert Mueller and his report. But nobody asked about Barr's legal crusade for blanket immunity for federal agents who kill American citizens.
Wow.
What?
Again, license to kill.
License to kill. License to kill. I believe somebody refers to this as the 007, license to kill.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, here's Attorney General Barr crusading for blanket immunity for federal agents who kill American citizens. And I'm an American citizen.
You are.
You're an American citizen.
I am.
There are a lot of us.
There's a lot of us.
And so according to the court over here in Oklahoma, the police can abuse us,
Yes.
and it's okay.
Pop you in ICU for 3 days. No
And
problem.
William Barr is saying it's okay if they kill us.
Ooh.
Now, I don't get that. Barr received a routine questionnaire from the Judiciary Committee asking him to disclose his past work, including pro bono activities, serving the disadvantaged. All right? That's what pro bono is, serving the disadvantaged. You know what he put down as part of his pro bono for the disadvantaged?
Euthanization of the disadvantaged.
The disadvantage that Barr spent most of his time helping was an FBI agent who slayed an Idaho mother
Whoa.
who was holding her baby in 1992
Don't vote for that guy.
at Ruby Ridge. Well, unfortunately, his position is not an elected position. The president gets to appoint.
Oh, awesome. Perfect.
And I'm not complaining about any political party. You see this no matter who the president is. Look what happened when Bill Clinton was president. Right here in Waco, Texas.
Right.
The Davidians.
Yes.
Shot, murdered, burned out, when all they had to do is just take a breath.
Yeah, man.
If the ATF hadn't wanted to just put on some show, they could have arrested David Koresh. I knew him as Vernon Howell. Down at the Pizza Hut any Friday night playing guitar. He had a regular gig at the Pizza Hut.
Is that what he did?
Yes.
That's funny.
They could have picked him up anytime. He used to go jogging. You know, they could have picked him up anytime, but no,
That
man.
show force.
They wanted to put on an excessive show of force, a vulgar display of power.
It's retarded.
Well, unfortunately. So that's what Barr was doing. He was trying to protect this FBI agent. It was a sniper who shot the woman and killed her, who was holding her baby there at Ruby Ridge. Got criminal charges filed on him in connection with Ruby Ridge incident. Now, that was one brave prosecutor, a state prosecutor that would indict this sniper for killing this woman who wasn't doing anything.
Unarmed, holding a baby.
Unarmed, holding a baby. Now, in his defense, he was shooting at someone else who had just entered, but that person wasn't doing anything provocative either.
Great.
They were separatists, lived out there by themselves, and wanted to be left alone.
Yep.
Well, now the federal government's not going to let you be left alone. They're going to come out and figure out, why the hell do you want to be left alone? You don't have a right to be left alone.
I don't want to be our friends anymore.
No, we're going to shoot at you. So the charitable work was for this FBI agent who already had a federally paid law firm defending him. But Barr was there trying to tap down one of the biggest scandals during his time as Attorney General from 91 through 93. He was responsible for both the U.S. Marshal Service and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, two federal agencies whose misconduct at Ruby Ridge helped weaken the bond of trust that must exist between ordinary Americans and our law enforcement agencies. So that's what's our problem is now. That bond of trust has been weakened. That's why one little spark can set off a riot.
Yeah.
That's why one little spark can get people shooting at each other.
Yeah.
And our government has pushed us in that direction, and it is just not right. This sniper, his name was Lon Horiuchi, Horiuchi, and he killed this woman named Vicky. She was standing in the cabin doorway. Now, Horiuchi also ended up he was in Waco.
Really?
He was one of the snipers shooting at the Davidians.
Oh, for real?
Yes.
Huh. Man, you just keep recycling the characters, don't you?
They do. Now, they captured Randy Weaver, the white separatist there in Idaho, and put him on trial. And he was found not guilty of nearly all the charges against him. Wow. Just like how out with the Davidians. They didn't find any illegal weapons after they went through all that.
Right.
Talking about all these illegal weapons, and they have hand grenades and all that. No, they didn't find them.
Jeez.
They didn't find him. So Weaver was found not guilty, and federal judge Edward Lodge slammed the Justice Department and the FBI for concealing evidence and showing a callous disregard for the rights of defendants and the interest of justice. You know, this is the case where FBI agent Greg Rampton, weren't we going to have some sound effects for his name?
Maybe.
Something like Darth
nice.
Vader. Yeah. Greg Rampton rearranged the evidence before photographing it.
Right.
Restaged it, then photographed it, and then put the photos in the file, and did not tell the defense attorneys that he had staged it. Jerry Spence, Weaver's lawyer, was able to pull that out of Greg Rampton during cross-examination.
Really?
Yeah, and he admitted it.
Wow.
He says, well, you knew when I questioned you yesterday about these photos that they weren't taken at the time, that they had been restaged. He says, yeah, but you didn't ask me that yesterday.
Greasy.
I know.
Ugh.
Yeah, and you want to hear how greasy Greg Rampton is.
Well, he was in your house, Vic.
He was in my house. Planting false evidence against me.
Which luckily, when it finally got to trial, there
was an attorney on the stand who was supposed to give that piece of evidence credibility. And the U.S. attorney asked this witness, when was the last time you saw this piece of paper? Because, see, Greg Rampton had put it in my bedroom, then sent a young female FBI agent in to search my bedroom, and she finds this piece of paper laying right out on top of my desk from like 2 years before, with a list of bribes on it.
Yeah.
That supposedly had been paid to me. And she comes running out, look what I found, look what I found. Oh my God, you talk about my heart sinking.
Right.
You know, how am I going to deal with this? They're planting false evidence, just like Greg Rampton rearranged the evidence at Ruby Ridge.
Right.
Just like it was Greg Rampton who took my little boy's syringe out of his doctor kit and labeled it drug paraphernalia.
Stupid.
Broke the syringe off the plaque that had been given to me and Ned Butler by the sheriff's department in Bryan College Station.
Right.
And labeled it narcotics paraphernalia so they could get this big news headline. Well, Greg Rampton. So then when this witness was on the stand to support this piece of paper, and the U.S. attorney said, when was the last time you saw this piece of paper, Mr. Witness?
Yeah.
And he was supposed to say, when I gave it to Vic Feazell.
Right.
But he didn't. He told the truth. He said, when y'all had me write it for you up in the grand jury room.
God, isn't that nuts?
Yeah, because it was in his handwriting.
Wow.
So they have him write it up in the grand jury room. And I'm telling you, we're going to get into that grand jury sometime because I have the transcripts. I subpoenaed those transcripts, and I have them. And there was so much fraud, so much perjury that went on with that grand jury that indicted me.
Yeah.
And to have somebody write something out in front of the grand jury, and then they stick it in my house.
You try to plant it in your house?
Plant it in my house.
Crazy.
So we know how these people act, and we shouldn't be letting them get away with it. And somebody like William Barr, well, he needs to have a conversion experience, man. He needs to change his ways. You know what the word repent means. The word repent just means quit doing that bad stuff and do the other thing instead.
Do the good stuff.
Do the right thing. Do the right thing.
Jeez.
So anyway, William Barr came to bat for this sniper and got all the charges against him dismissed. And remember, I mentioned something about the DA up there in Idaho that must have been a really brave soul to file the charges on this guy.
Yeah.
Well, you know what happened to him? The same thing happened to me, except he didn't get arrested. They ran somebody against him.
Oh, yeah?
They ran somebody against him, and he was defeated. Oh. And the guy who took his place dismissed these charges. Gone. Out the window. So the question at the bottom of this article, does William Barr still endorse wartime rules and 007 license to kill standards that absolve federal agents from questionable shooting of Americans? Does Barr consider illegal government killings to be an oxymoron? Illegal government killings. God. There's no such thing.
Oh, that's scary.
Best of all, can Barr explain to us his understanding of the phrase government under law?
Right.
You know, the law should apply to everybody.
Yep.
Not just to the privileged few. So yeah, and here's the article. Jurors learn murder scene photos staged. And this was back in 1993 that Mr. Rampton staged these photos. That was after he did the stuff to me.
Right. Yeah, you were done by then.
After he did the stuff to me, and I was found not guilty. Plus, he had gone after just about every Democratic office holder in Texas who had any shot for higher office.
That's messed up.
Working with Karl Rove.
Oh, Karl Rove
to take
I haven't heard
out
that name in a while.
I'm in just about every book that's written about Karl Rove. I'm in it. They say that Karl Rove cut his teeth on Vic Feazell. He learned his dirty tricks coming after me. And so pick up Boy Genius or Machiavelli's Shadow and see what it says about me. They came after me. They came after Jim Hightower. They came after Gary Morrow. All of us rising stars in the Democratic Party. And they came after all of us and tried to get all of us indicted. And I'm telling you that there's articles everywhere about how Rove and Rampton used to have lunch together. Used to talk on the phone, hang out. They made no secret of it. And Rove would get Rampton to do these investigations, and then Rove would leak it to the press.
Wow.
Well, that's just not right.
All right, man. Let's all do better.
Let's
calm down and do better.
Let's calm down and do better, people. Now, next time we'll probably get back to the deep state versus Vic Feazell, because there really is a deep state. And when we're passing laws that say it's okay to kill American citizens if you're a federal agent, that it's okay to use excessive force on Americans even when they're complying with police orders, folks, we got a problem. We need to go back to the drawing board. And a lot of this is not going to be cured with new laws. It needs to be cured with new thinking.
Right. It needs to be cured at the person level. And you hate to think that this could happen to you or to someone you love and know. But I'm sitting across from you right now, Vic, and I know that this happened to you.
It did.
And it's scary.
It's scary. And there are people coming out and talking about it now. Even somebody like this article recently quoting Ron Paul.
Yeah.
A lot of you may remember Ron Paul. He was a congressman forever. And this article says, Ron Paul says, vote all you want, but the secret government won't change. Because we're run by the bureaucracies.
Yeah.
And if you think that the Department of Justice, their internal affairs unit at the Department of Justice is going to help, they're not. I've been up there. I have visited with those people when all this was happening to me.
Yeah.
I laid out the paperwork and showed it to them. And they didn't care.
Oh, jeez.
They didn't care. And they gave them the green light to go ahead with their perjury, to go ahead and show the Channel 8 tapes to the grand jury that indicted me. And those are the Channel 8 tapes that I later took, and me and Gary Richardson marched them back across their own goal line and proved that every single thing they said was a lie. And not only was it a lie, but it had been said with malice.
Yes.
And that was Karl Rove. That was Tom Pauken. That was Jim Adams. That was, and then they were using that reporter for Channel 8, Charles Duncan, making use of him and using people like Donnie Tidmore, who had already trespassed on a man's property. Donnie Tidmore had been a detective with the Waco Police Drug Enforcement Unit.
Mm-hmm.
And a big drug case had to be thrown out because he had trespassed on the property to get the probable cause. Well, he's the same guy who trespassed on my property to illegally tap my phone. And I don't know if it was him, but somebody killed my dog for barking at him when they would climb the phone pole to put those alligator clips
to wiretap
on the wires.
Crazy.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before. AT&T came out with their experts, climbed the pole and said, oh my God. I mean, that wire is nearly eaten in two. It's been tapped so many times. And they brought me in a bag full of splinters, some of them a foot long and an inch or two wide, that had been knocked off the telephone pole from them climbing up that pole with their little rooster spurs on.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, crazy stuff. So anyway, that's the state of our union. Pray for our country, people. Pray for our country. Pray for your neighbor. And pray for yourself. Pray for patience. Pray for kindness. Pray for love. Thank you for listening to the Vic Feazell Show podcast. We're a primary source podcast. We talk about people we've known, things we've experienced. We're a primary source podcast. For more information, visit vicfeazell.com. Leave us a comment or a review. Subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook pages. And thank you for listening. Share us with your friends.
This is Texas singer-songwriter Brian Burns, and I've been to Waco, Hico, Hondo, Navasota, Winsboro, Jacksboro, Hillsboro, Santa Rosa, Austin, Houston, Galveston, Texarkana, Frisco, Buffalo, Conroe, Corsicana, and that's just in the last week. Keep a safe pace, folks. Relax and drive laid back, because Texas is a laid-back place. And if you've been in a car wreck, call Vic Feazell at 877-WITH-VIC.
With principal offices in Waco and Austin, Texas.